Good evening, everyone. My name is Margaret. Thanks very much for coming here. And David, thanks for the opportunity. Uh, it's a pleasure. Actually, it is a blessing for me to be here with you guys presenting tonight. As you can see, I've got one of those fancy degrees. So long before growing up, I thought, okay, if you want a better future, you want a brighter future, stay as long as you can in school. Then once you get out of school, everything is automatic. You get a good job, very good income, good life, great life, and that's it. So that's what I did. But then when I graduated from university, I realized that was so far away from the truth. Actually, you're competing with everybody, and at some point it becomes a disadvantage because employers don't want to deal with you. They just think you're too qualified for the position they have because your expectations might probably be too high, so they don't want to deal with you. But anyway, so I went from one job to the other, and finally I was able to find something, a decent job that paid well. I think, well, people told me I did get a good job. And at some point, I just thought, okay, I'm just gonna work hard, try and get a promotion, try and get a raise, work hard, increase my KPIs, and get bonuses here, left and right, and and I even got a second job. So all I did was save. I didn't even buy luxury items, just the basic. Like I remember back then, my apartment was just the basic, like just what you need to live, to survive. And after a few years, I was saving and I was working, like pretty much I didn't have time to sleep or do anything. And then I looked at my savings account and I was thinking, okay, probably I've got a lot here and maybe I can retire within the next few years, or I can buy a big house or do something. And I checked my banking accounts and I had around 50,000, yeah. And I had been contributing to my employer's RSP savings plan, and I had about, well, I thought I had probably like 200,000 because I was contributing as much as I could, and the employer was matching it as well. And I had the greatest surprise when I called the company that was managing our plan, and I said, oh, how much do I have in my retirement fund? And they said, you have 33,000. And I'm like, what? And they said 33,000, and I said, is that my contribution or just the interest or the employer's contribution? Like, can you give me a breakdown? And the agent says, oh no, ma'am, that's your contribution, employer's contribution plus interest. And I'm like, that's it? And he said, oh ma'am, yeah, that's it. And guess what? You're doing great. Keep it up. A few years from now, you might probably hit the millions. And I'm like, no, seriously, like, if you go into the accounts, I've been contributing for almost 6 years. And he says, ma'am, that's it. I can send you a statement. And I hung up. Sorry. Okay, that's all right. And I hung up the phone, and I was thinking, what's going on? Only 33,000 after 5.5 years of contribution? And I started thinking, how is it going to double or triple or what, quadruple, whatever it is, to get into $1 million? And I was thinking, 5 years, I get 33,000. 10 years, probably I get 66. 20 years, maybe 120 and whatnot, probably more when you take into consideration the math and all that. But still, then I'm thinking, how many more years do I have to work? 2 jobs, 3 jobs to be able to be financially independent? I called my bank and they told me the same thing. Actually, I think with my bank I lost money because when I did the calculation, it should have been somewhere around 65,000, but they told me I had 50,000, and they kept telling me, oh man, you're doing great, keep it up. And by then I was married and I had kids, had a lot of kids. We only wanted 2, but actually we don't know how to count, so we ended up with 4. So, and my kids, they could hardly tell, but all of them were like, oh mommy, I want to be this, I want to be that, and I'm thinking, how is that gonna happen? And I wanted financial independence. I just wanted to wake up in the morning and do nothing, or just sit down and look at my bank statement and say, okay, you know what, I'm doing great. But whatever I was doing wasn't working. So I started thinking there must be a better way. I was looking at stock options, looking at this, investing into businesses. I started little businesses, internet, online marketing, this, that, and everything. some worked, some didn't work, and it came to a point when I said, okay, let me look into real estate. Because I've lived in a few different countries, and everywhere the number one asset of the average person is their principal residence. Like some people have like a second or third home, but the number one thing is the principal residence. And I'm like, okay, we have our home. What about if we got a second, a third, a fourth, until our kids start going to university, and then probably sell one or two of those and then put them through university so that they don't have to pay student loan. Or probably let them go and get student loan, and meanwhile I can sell a home or two and then retire probably at 50. So pretty much I was thinking about myself. And also I thought maybe don't sell anything, just pass them on to the kids. And I was looking at all these rich people, and some of them did inherit their wealth. I'm like, pretty much maybe I should start doing that for my kids too, and just cut the cycle where you have poverty from one generation to the other. Probably my generation should be the different generation and create like a better example for my kids and grandkids. And so, get to the next slide. And I said, okay, real estate is it that? But I didn't know anything about real estate. Whenever I talked to my relatives, friends about real estate, and they said, what are you talking about? What do you know about real estate? Do you even have the money? And a lot of them ask, what do you know about plumbing? What do you know about even changing a door lock? Like, what are you gonna do with tenants? What if they call you at 2 in the morning? What are you gonna do? Like, it's all, and then what if the market crashed? What if this happened? What if that happened? And it was all this negative stuff. So I put that behind my back, and I said, probably maybe I need a third job. And I went looking for one. And then I was so frustrated, with the managers, the company, everything. And I said, you know what? Probably real estate, I'm going back. So I did a lot of research on real estate, read a lot of books, spoke to a lot of people, a lot of negative people along the way. But there was still one or two people that were positive that said, okay, you know what, you can do it. It's not gonna be a fun journey, but at some point you're gonna reap the benefits of your hard work. So I started doing some analysis, and well, I live in Markham, so my first instinct was to invest in my backyard. I started looking at Markham, and back then, cheapest home in Markham was around $600,000, and I was thinking, okay, how much am I going to rent that for? Even I put 20 or 30% down, what's going to happen? How am I going to pay the mortgage? And property tax in Markham is high as well. So I looked into offshore, but this was around the right after the U.S. market crash. It was around 2009, 2010, when the automotive industry wasn't that stable as well, and offshore, I think all the plants were closing, and it was just not. It didn't look like a stable market, but that's something I've learned today. That when you're looking at something, don't just take things that's face value. There's several other stuff that you have to take into consideration. Like I didn't even know that the 407 was extending to offshore. I knew that they had one GO train station, but I didn't know that they were trying on expanding stuff, and Whitby and all those places were really developed. So I just thought, okay, you know what, GM is pulling out, Chrysler is pulling out, that's it, I'm not going to offshore. I'm regretting that today because back then, the few homes that I looked at, they were like 200,000, like North Offshore, which is like a good area, the best. You have South and North, and now those homes are going for like $550, and even at that, you're having a bidding war. They're going $20,000, $30,000, $50,000 above asking price. And I'm thinking back then, probably I should have bought quite a few of those homes. So there are several things I should have taken into consideration, and probably I should have invested in offshore as to abstaining and looking at other areas. I looked at Hamilton and looked at everything, the population, and the fact that all the highways going to Hamilton, 500,000 people, and I thought, okay, this is promising. I looked at London, and London was almost 2 hours away from my house, and I thought, okay, I don't know anything. Nothing about real estate, nothing about tenant management, nothing. So London, that's out of it. And I was watching some real estate shows on TV, and they also said, oh no, London, no, that's a dead town. There's nothing going on to London. Wrong. So then when you look at all the plans that's going on, roads and everything, transit, everything that's going to London, that would have been a very good place to invest. And now all those homes that were going for, that were listed for under 100,000, they're all probably late 300, 400s, and they're having bidding wars. So it's just to say I've learned a lot, and probably, are there any real estate investors in the room, or invest in real estate? Okay. And Windsor, I love the price point in Windsor. But then when I spoke with people, and that's something we should all be careful about, you speak with people, unfortunately you meet the negative people first before you meet the positive ones. Those are the going to encourage you, at least provide you with very good information. And they told me never to go to Windsor. Oh my God, don't go to Windsor. I don't want to say what they told me, because probably you have someone here from Windsor, but it was like, don't go to Windsor, just scratch it off your map. But that was a very bad idea. And the houses were, I think, duplex were going for like $50,000, $60,000. It was unbelievable. I didn't. Well, last year I bought a couple of homes in Windsor, and I was thinking, why didn't I buy those homes like 3, 4, 5 years ago? That would have been completely different. So there are ways to analyze properties and areas and all that, so that you can get into the market before the rest of the population does. Because by the time everybody is talking about it on TV, pretty much you miss the boat. Because then everybody is flocking in, and then you have less properties on the market, and those properties are going for above market value. And by the time you get there, probably you're thinking you're overpaying, and now you're just pretty much depending on appreciation, which is good, but because of the market and everything that's going on, and sometimes you have people that just go on TV and say something not so bright, and it brings the market down, so you really want to be smart about investing. So actually, after doing all the analysis, I just thought Hamilton would be my niche market, just because of the price point. And a lot, like Hamilton is independent. They have a system going on there. They're not dependent on Toronto. Even though you do have people from Hamilton that commute all the way to Toronto, but it was just the price point. And I have something that I learned from professional real estate agents, the 1% rule, or even the 2% rule, where you're supposed to get at least 1% of the purchase price in rent, just to be on the safe side. And in Hamilton, I was able to find that. So I finally decided to start in Hamilton. I did purchase a couple of properties in Oshawa, but Hamilton was my place to go. And so since I was doing this all alone, now my husband is on board, because he's seen finished products. He's seen what's going on. But initially it was just me, no family members. I remember I told my mother-in-law what I was going to do, and she said, please, don't get my son involved in this. So, and so my strategy back then was just to buy, I've got 4 kids, probably just buy 1 for each kid, fix it, and hold it, and just make sure I manage the tenants. And flip some properties if I need to, because sometimes you need cash. And I also thought, okay, probably the main thing to do here, because back then you had a lot of flippers. People were copying what happened in the US, where they would buy just a regular home. Because one thing I learned in business, you don't want to go take away the path that everyone is taking. You can take that path, but be careful. Probably you're taking it and you divert a little bit. So a lot of people are buying homes and just, of course, adding lipstick to the home, making it look beautiful, and then putting it back on the market. So what I thought was, okay, instead of doing that, since I want to buy and hold, take a home that's big enough, something that's at least 1,500 square feet, convert it into a 2-unit, and then have double income, at least, because sometimes tenants don't, well, I know. When I was in university, some of my friends didn't pay rent, and so I didn't want to get into a situation where people would just stay in my home and just depend on just the one rent, and if that person doesn't pay, then probably I would lose my home because cash flow would be an issue. So I decided to buy a home where I would convert it into 2 units and get 2 income coming in. And be a little bit different from the others who just bought homes and flipped them directly. And so this was my very first home. I remember when I went to look at it, driving back home, I was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I doing? Why am I going to buy this? Everybody is against it. Why am I going to do it? Anyway.
35K.
Oh no, 35K below market.
Oh, okay.
Oh, below market? Oh no, not 35K. If it was 35K, I would have bought the whole city.
The whole street, right? Yeah.
So I tried to crop it a little bit. So I was very nervous. I was shaking. And so it was a duplex. So one thing I was happy about it was a legal duplex. Because I've heard horror stories about fighting with the city, trying to legalize a place. If even it's just a basement, trying to convert it into a legal basement. And so this one, I checked with the city, and it was a legal duplex. It needed work inside, but then I said, okay, as long as I'm not touching the walls, then this is something I can work with. So 2 income streams. So upstairs I have 2 bedrooms, self-contained unit, and downstairs 2 bedrooms, self-contained unit. And I was at the point, well, sometimes it's good in life to be in a situation where you're willing to walk away. So I was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I wanted to invest, but I didn't want to invest. So I told the selling agent, this is my price, take it or leave it. And he said, oh, the buyer isn't going to accept this. And I'm like, you know what? I really don't want to invest. So if the buyer doesn't accept it, I'm just going to walk away. And the buyer accepted it, and my husband kept asking me, do you know what you're doing? And I didn't know anything. Up till now, probably I have an idea as to how to unclog a toilet, change pipes, electrical. No, I don't want to go there. I hire an electrician to do the work, a certified electrician. But I bought this home and it needed work. And that's when I realized that you got to surround yourself with people who know more than you. You don't have to know everything, but surround yourself with people who know more than you. That one, you're gonna learn, you're gonna grow, and secondly, you're gonna have things done. So I went on Kijiji, and I started looking for plumber, electrician, with the general contractors. Well, of course, I got duped a lot, lost some money, met some people that were not so honest. That's okay, it's part of the journey. But finally, we got the unit up and running, and I was able to rent upstairs and downstairs, which was good. And luckily, I bought that property because now it has at least tripled in price. So that was a very good learning experience. Oh, now my husband knows that because we went to refinance it, and he saw how much we were able to take out of the property. So he's telling everybody, oh yeah, we are good real estate investors. Like, we know what we're doing. But I don't want to embarrass him. So I said, yeah, we both know what we're doing. So that was really great one. I paid, and oh yeah, I got that financing through the regular bank. And so that was great, like 0 problems other than the fixing up of the property. Like financing, it was no problem. My credit was good and all that. And that was me. I was so happy. I thought I was doing something great. I called my mom, took a picture of the property. I started telling people about it. The bank gave me the money. I closed on closing. Everything was awesome. And this is where problems started. And then it was so sweet when I put everything together. And I told my agents, okay, I'm looking for a second property, same criteria. A house that we can convert into a duplex or a legal duplex that needs work, that I can work on, because now I pretty much had a team of people that I was working with, even though I still had some of my doubts, but I've gotten my feet wet, so I kind of knew what I was doing. Found the property, and I went back to the same bank because the bank had told me, okay, you've been pre-approved for this amount, and I just thought, okay, I'll just split that amount into 2. and then use one for one property and then come back to the bank and say, okay, I want the other half for another property. No, it doesn't work that way. I found that the hard way. So I went to the bank, one of the A lenders, and boy, this is how I felt. Why do I feel this way? Because they asked me for papers left and right, here and there. Bring this, bring that, bring everything. And I'm like, why are you asking me for all these papers? You asked me for a lot of papers for the first purchase, but not for that many. And they said, oh no, but now you're a high risk person. And yeah, we need to cover ourselves. And I was like, okay. And I just felt that, okay, probably I should walk away because it was just too much. But then I was looking at the long-term goal because I thought about what my money was doing in the bank, which was nothing. Probably I was getting a penny here, a penny there, but nothing. Everything that was in the accounts was what I worked hard for. There was nothing additional to it. So I said, okay, I'll go through the whole process. And still going through the process, I tried to look for images on the internet. That's how I felt. Like my head was spinning, and I couldn't get any money from the banks. And actually, I missed the closing. And the seller said, okay, probably I should relist this market and keep your deposit. And I said, please, please, no, I need this property. And my agent back then was really good, and she spoke with the seller. And I didn't know better. I went to walk to my local bank and asked them. They said, okay, we'll get back to you. Wrong idea. Probably the best thing is find a broker right from the get-go. Work with that broker. I didn't know. I found out the hard way. So I went to the other branch, an A lender. Said, okay, we'll get back to you. I missed that other closing. Didn't give me the money. Well, I didn't know they did a credit check. Probably I signed papers and they did it, and I wasn't even aware of anything. And finally, my agent says, okay, I have a broker that you can work with. And he asked, oh, why did you go to another lender and a third bank and all that? Long story short, he was like, okay, I'll help you. And that's when I started getting comfortable with alternative lenders. Before, I just thought, okay, the interest rate is higher and it's different. I'll go to an A lender. And I used that broker. Back then, he worked with his dad. And, well, this was 2 months later, almost like a month and a half later. That's how, like, we kept pushing the closing, like 10 days, 2 weeks, 1 week. And that seller was really, really patient with me. Oh, I wish I knew where he was today. I would send him a present. So he, finally, we were able to close. And back then, I was still looking at the details of stuff. I looked at the interest rate they gave me, and I looked at the posted interest rate, and I was like, why am I getting this interest rate? This is the interest rate. And they said, well, take it or leave it. You want a house or not? And I just thought, okay, let me go with it, because it's still better than what my money is doing in the bank. And that property needed work. I had to purchase like extra insurance for it. That's how much work it needed. And I got a property manager to manage, well, both properties now, because the first one I started doing it, and I live all the way in Markham, and this is in Hamilton. And speaking about tenants from hell, that's an understatement. So this is the second property, and got the mortgage, started doing work, finished the work. It's a duplex, 2-bedroom upstairs. That's my model. 2-bedroom downstairs. Got tenants inside, and guess what? The tenants burned down the house.
Whoa.
Yep.
They what, burned down the house?
Yeah, the second house.
You
Well,
had
that's-
insurance though.
Oh yeah, I have learned, don't go cheap on your insurance. Do not go cheap on your insurance. Oh my goodness, do not go cheap on your insurance. So yeah, especially for rentals, do not go cheap. So this property was and I was thinking, oh my gosh, what am I getting myself into? So when we fixed it, I spent thousands of dollars fixing it, got the tenants. And tenant from hell, well, back then I didn't know much about tenant screening, and the property manager, probably I was his least important client. and didn't pay attention too much. And bed bugs here, bed bugs there, and one day I saw my phone ringing, and I said, why is he calling me? Like 10 different calls, and I called him and he says, Margaret, Kinred is cursed. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he said, it's on fire. And he said, well, look at it this way, the bed bugs are frying anyways. Because for the new tenants, for the tenants there, like she was never ready for the treatment or anything. And you know, tenants have a lot of rights. Oh my goodness. And I was so scared, I didn't know what to do. Called my insurance and they said, call this number and they'll take care of the rest. I couldn't sleep that night. I took something to sleep, but I just couldn't sleep. I couldn't close my eyes. Next day I called my insurance and they said, okay, we're waiting for the report and everything. Long story short, the insurance company rebuilt that house for me. And today it's what, at least, so back then it was a non-conforming duplex, today it's a legal duplex, and it's at least 3 times what I paid for it. And I made sure to put a good tenant in it. Like I did a lot of research about tenants and all that. I learned, oh yeah, and the next door neighbor, he sued me for $225,000. Why?
Because
Oh
his
yeah.
property was damaged.
Yes.
Yeah, figures.
So he sued me for 200, and I'm like, I went to pick up my kid from school, and I was coming home, and this guy said, are you Mrs. Curlew? I said, yes, and he said, you're being served. What do you mean, being served? I said, I'm not taking it. He said, well, you have to take it, because I'm taking you right now. I'm doing. So I took it, called my agent, and he said, just send it over. Because apparently his house, the fire from my house went onto his property, burnt it, and he took the, he took the settlement from the insurance company, and then whatever was left from the property, sold it to a flipper. And I'm thinking he went and spent the money and came back, couldn't find anything, and he was looking for ways to get money back to be able to buy another house. So sued us for $225,000, but of course my insurance company took care of that. And when my plan came up for renewal, I said, please give me the best plan. Whatever I had, if it wasn't good enough, make it better.
What's your insurance company?
What's that?
What insurance company?
Oh, I'll give you the name. It's called Travelers Insurance.
Excuse me, did your tenant have insurance? The tenant, did he have insurance?
Oh no, she didn't have insurance. What?
But if there's a fire and the tenant caused the fire, he should be responsible. I don't know how your policy can cover that.
What they did, we think she set the fire, but the fire marshal and the insurance company, they sent people to the property,
Right.
and they said they think it was something electrical, but they couldn't say exactly. But my property manager was telling me that she must have set the fire there. The
I
property, he thought it was.
Because if she set the fire, you wouldn't be covered.
They were drug addicts, so he thought that somebody was smoking and probably they left the.
Alright, you're lucky, trust me, because
I know.
because if the tenant set the fire, that your policy won't cover the fire.
I know,
Yeah.
and my property manager told me I was lucky.
Yes.
When I told him, whatever you told me, let's just keep it between us.
Right. No, I understand, of course, yeah, this is a big loss, sure.
But yeah, we suspected smoking that caused the fire because she didn't work. Well, we thought she did, and the husband didn't. The boyfriend didn't work, so that's all they did at home was just sit down, take drugs, smoke, and whatnot. So we just thought. But the good thing is there was no human damage. Like nobody lost lives. It was just material damage. So that was perfect.
Okay, good.
Yeah. So my insurance, I've got the best insurance plan. Of course, my premium has gone up. So, but then when you look at a house, a brand new house, 3 times the value, oh yeah, they can even raise the premium. I don't care right now. So that was really a learning experience. Oh my gosh, that was a huge learning curve. So I kind of waited, didn't buy anything. I wanted to go through, yeah, did you have
Sorry,
anything?
when you rebuilt the house after the fire, was it built back to the original spec or did you improve it?
Oh yes. So I did some improvements. So of course they have to give you what you had before.
Right.
But then what I did was, since it was a duplex but non-conforming, so I asked them to separate the meters, separate the furnace. So like right now you go to the basement, you have two separate furnaces
change
and
furnace,
like
electrical.
separate everything. Because it's a good question. Because this property, like the hydro company would call me and say, Mrs. Curley, what's going on your property? Your hydro bill for last month was $850. What?
Growing marijuana.
Well, I didn't know back then. That's
Yeah.
what they. So I told my property manager, "Can you go in and see what's going on?"
Yeah.
And so for like 3 months in a row, my bill was almost like $1,000. And then when I'd even paying, well, both rents, like upstairs, well, I didn't know back then I could raise the rents. Now each unit is being rented for $14.50, but back then one was paying $9.50 and the other one was paying $8.50. Now my hydro bill alone was $8.50. So,
And they pay their own hydro now.
oh yeah, they will pay their own. Now it's just rent, and I do whatever I want to do with my rent. So yeah, but that property I learned a lot. Oh my gosh, I stopped and everybody said, "We told you." We told you. And that was the second property, but this was before they built it, they rebuilt it. But when it burnt down, we told you. And so when they rebuilt it now, and that was when the real estate market started going up. And I was sending the pictures to all these people who were like, "We told you. We told you." And they were like, "Okay, probably this is the time to sell it and walk away with your money." And I said, "Why would I sell a brand new property? This is the time I recuperate all the money I've lost on it." So I'm gonna rent it. I refinanced it and got money out of it.
Sorry, where was the second one?
Oh, the second one, that's in Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Yeah, both in Hamilton. Well, Hamilton is my place, the place I like to be, because back then, it's not like now where Hamilton is pretty much chasing Toronto. Yeah, but back then it was really, really reasonable. You could buy something and even get the 2% out of the property. So, but now it's getting really, really tough. And that's what I'm gonna talk about on the next slide. So I pretty much changed my business. This is a property that I'm gonna close on next Thursday. So pretty much I've changed my business strategy a little bit, because initially it was just buy, fix, and hold. And the properties were like around $200,000. You know what I mean? Some were just under 200, some were just a little bit over 200. So it made sense to like you can make mistakes and don't really feel it. But now looking at the price points for something, 5 something, 6 something, you really, really gotta be careful how you work. And now I'm doing it as a business. Before it was just trying to build a retirement plan or something, because my 4 little kids, all of them want to be doctors. I don't know where that is. Like even one says I want to be doctor of food, the other one is like I want to be doctor of dinosaurs. And the other one says I want to be doctor of video games.
You better Brandon Hoover now though.
So right now we have, when we close with this one, it's gonna be a dozen property, and then there's another one that's on the roads. So the business strategy, since the past couple of years, what we decided to do is buy in better neighborhoods, because we realized that tenant profile really counts. Oh my goodness, that tenant that burned down, the house that got burned down, I don't want to keep saying that tenant that burned down the house, probably the insurance company might be somewhere around it. So the tenant profile really counts. So buying in better neighborhoods really counts, because one, you can collect good rent, and right from the get-go, you can ask them for a void check or something, or ask them for 12 months payment. And you know what? If they're going to work, that means they have limited time in your house. Well, somebody that's not working, they're home 24/7. Guess what? They have 24/7 to destroy your house. And that's something I figured out. So, what's that?
It's funny, sad, but yeah, true.
So they have 24/7 to run the water, to damage your house. They have 24/7 to do that. That's what I realized. So this property, a typical property south of Hamilton, back then when I started like almost 6 years ago, something like this would have been 230, but this one was listed for 450 or something, I can't remember. And actually they were expecting a bidding war, and that didn't happen. I didn't think they got any offers, so the property was on, that's what I'm doing, properties that have been on the market for a while, because then you can bargain. Well, you can bargain a lot, like the way people used to bargain before, where like my first property, I said, this is what I'm paying and that's it, and they were like, okay, take it. Now you have a lot of investors on the market, so it's a little bit more difficult, and buyers know that. What I've realized is that a property that's falling apart probably might go for 300,000, but once they flip the property next door and it's being sold for 600, guess what? This person now thinks their $300 property that's falling apart is worth 600,000.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But the problem is half the time they get it.
Yes,
If not
they
more
do.
than half the time.
They do.
Or
They
for
get it.
20, 30,000 less.
And if you don't want it, somebody is
Lined
kind
up
of-
to get it.
Yes, or they might even get more because they're like, oh, actually the property next door went for 600, so I'd buy this. I
Yeah.
can get more. So it's really, really tough, really tough. And what I've realized that some of the stuff I learned by reading a lot of real estate books, they don't apply these days. They used to apply way back when you didn't have, when the market wasn't crowded. Where before they used to say, okay, look for somebody, power of sale or this or that, or an old person's. No, it doesn't apply. No, it's completely different. So this one, I've worked with David with it, and I'm so happy I'm working with David. Well, I've learned now, you work with a broker. Probably if you want to buy one house, you can just go to your bank. But if you want to do this like a chain reaction, like 2, 3, 4, 5, it's best to work with a broker who has access to lenders, whether it's A lenders, B lenders, C lenders, someone who has access to lenders. Like one thing I've noticed is today, that extra 1,000 or 2,000 might look like monumental amounts, but 5 years down the line, when your property would have doubled, like you look at it and you're like, oh yeah, that was so worth it. So this is a problem.
Question, are you getting mortgages, like, have you incorporated, or do you have hold this under a business?
That's one of the things
And
I've learned. It's still in my name,
Okay.
and I am thinking of incorporating. And you know, I met there was a lawyer here last week. Yeah, I spoke with him, and he said he can work with me or recommend me to someone. Because that first time I got lucky when I got sued for $225,000, and
Yeah.
and
That's
my
it.
insurance said, because it was related to the house that went down in flames, right?
Yeah.
But he says
Because you're personally liable.
exactly.
Yeah.
So, and I'm thinking, well, David is great. I've been working with him, but when I try to work with other brokers and I couldn't get the financing for other properties, like I went 5 properties, couldn't get financing because I lost my deposit on them. Oh yeah.
Because
So
is it easier to get, I guess I'm wondering, what is the difference between getting a mortgage under a business name versus getting a mortgage under a personal name?
yeah, probably David can explain.
From a mortgage standpoint, I mean, there are some lenders that don't want to lend to a corporation, but it's not like, I'm dealing mostly in the alternative space, and the lenders that we deal with, they don't have a problem lending to a corporation. I mean, you're still gonna have to guarantee the mortgage personally, but as Margaret alluded to, gives you other protections, like if there's a fire or somebody slips and falls and they sue you. And then there's tax implications as well, which I can't say too much about from that perspective. But from a mortgage standpoint, it's doesn't make much difference.
I tried, thank you. I spoke with my accountant, but probably I need a more sophisticated accountant, because now they say I'm sophisticated. Do I look sophisticated? I spoke with my accountant, and he says, oh, do not incorporate. But that's the accountant I was using to do my personal, back then when I had nothing. Yeah, so,
One of the reasons I work in financial services and I actually specialize in helping investors to keep more of their wealth in the family and give less of it to the CRA.
okay.
So one of the reasons you may want to incorporate and one of the reasons for incorporating your portfolio is for estate planning reasons. So when it comes down to eventually passing down your wealth, if you are a viable investor and you're eventually looking to pass your wealth to the next generation, having properties in a corporation allows you to do something called an estate freeze, which is a way, I know I don't wanna like confuse people, but it's a way to add some predictability to your estate planning. In the absence of that, if the properties are personally held, you don't have that option. So in other words, you're dealing with an ever increasing tax liability issue for the next generation. Whereas, and that's something we can talk about. But holding properties in a corporation allows for this maneuver, which essentially blocks your capital gains, and that the next generation will only be responsible for a set amount of tax as opposed to an ever increasing tax liability. So that's for estate planning reasons, tax minimization, those reasons, having properties in a corporation also helps.
Yeah, because you can just transfer shares as opposed to transferring property,
It's
right?
not just that, it's a little beyond that. But that also helps.
Because you don't own a corporation does.
That doesn't avoid the tax liability. I've done a presentation on this and
Okay.
I'll do a follow-up one. But just, so for tax, as David was alluding, there are some tax advantages to having your portfolio incorporated.
My question to David, so, because I tried incorporating, I was looking into it, and, this person told me that I should have the property for at least, 2 years. Like the properties that I have now, I should have had them for at least 2 years. And I have to speak with the lender to see if it's possible the lender has to agree to transfer the properties
Yeah.
into corporation. And my accountant told me, well, these properties that have all tripled in value, and he said I would have to pay capital gain tax. And I'm thinking, is that right?
When you transfer them.
Yeah, because you're transferring it.
Tax,
Yes.
does not have any, there's an exemption available when you
This
transfer.
one accepted?
As far as I understand, there's something called a section 85, where it says, I'm not an accountant,
Okay.
but if you're transferring personally held properties to a corporation that you own yourself, you won't have to worry about that gains tax, but there is still land transfer taxes.
Land transfer tax?
Yeah, but that's not so major, and it's still worth doing.
That's a good point, Letitia, and Joel over here is shaking his head, yes, Joel is a retired accountant, so
Okay.
whenever we talk accounting, I kinda look at Joel to see if he's shaking his head, yes or no, and so far it looks good, so.
What he's mistaken about is I've got a little bit of Parkinson's.
Okay, good discussion. Thanks, everybody. Well, yes, so I am looking into it because I have, just a little bit sidetracking. I have a friend and, I think her husband and their siblings, the parents passed away and they have a cottage in Muskoka that they inherited. Well, back in the days, they purchased the cottage probably for under 100,000 and now it's over $1 million. So the CRA is coming after them and they want to keep it as a family, like pass it down to their children like a family treasure. But then I don't know how much the tax is, but they're saying that the amounts of money they're asking them to pay in taxes is too much and they're thinking
It
it's
should be the parents that passed away that pays the taxes,
not them,
not them.
It's
Estate,
the estate,
Yeah.
the estate,
the states.
but it's not the estate.
give that state's will to the kids, so the state, so
It-
you
it
know the
can
tax,
stay.
if they, the kids
Well,
don't
you
get
should
it.
never look at money as something being gifted to you if it's inherited before revenue put it against there. So if they're looking at it that way, then that's their problem. Sorry.
Okay, and I have a question for you.
Okay, sure.
So my question is about managing the property and the tenants.
Okay.
I mean, it's one thing to, find a piece of real estate that's worth finding, figuring out how to optimize it, which, add a unit, do certain renovations that aren't at hand. But this idea of finding the right tenants and managing them on an ongoing basis with, if something goes wrong, my light bulb went out, did they call you at 11 o'clock? My light bulb went out. do you deal with this?
So flip the switch.
Well, one thing I learned this when initially I had a property manager, and boy, well, I went through property managers, and let's say I would collect $2,000 in rent, and they would send me a bill for $1,800. Yes, tenants call for this, tenants call for that, tenant call for this, tenants call for everything, and I'm like, okay. But I thought all this was incorporated in the property management fee. I'm paying you 9%. Some of them I paid 8%, some of them I paid 9%, some 10%, so on average 9%. And they were like, oh no, that's not included in it. And tenants would come up with something else. Oh no, that's not. But what's included in my property management agreement with you? Oh, collecting rent, cutting the grass and this, but changing bulbs or toilets and whatnot. So it was really hard. I wasn't seeing my money at the end of, well, just a little bit, and I would be lucky if it covered the mortgage. So I went through a list of property management companies, and finally I decided to manage them myself, and now I've got my brother-in-law on board. He didn't know anything about it, but then I showed him a lot of stuff. But where did I learn? Well, I learned from all the experiences I got from the tenants. But then the properties I got in Windsor, this agent's like very nice woman. She's been doing this a long time, and I looked at the lease that she drafted. Pretty much, she transferred all the responsibilities to the tenants. Yes.
Is that still allowed under the new rules?
Oh, which new rules?
Well, Kathleen
Yeah.
Wynn,
Mhm.
that's still allowed? 'Cause-
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, I wasn't paying attention to that. What news?
No, Kathleen, what was it, Bill 20? Was that what it was called? It was the Kathleen
yeah, that sounds right.
Wynn thing that crashed the market.
Oh,
Well,
really?
No,
So-
that's not got something anything to do with
Makes
the
it even
tenant.
harder for, sorry, Fred.
That's,
Pardon me?
that's something to do with the you know, different aspects of how you have the additional lending stress test, and
Yeah,
that's what
B20,
caused the.
yeah.
Oh, that's
what-
B20,
That was a
which is
factor,
federal,
but there were
sorry.
also-
Kathleen
you're right,
Wynn was
that
the
there were
Ontario
also-
one where she
yeah.
increased, where she changed the laws, where she set a specific form, standardized a form that you're
Yeah,
supposed to
that's right,
use,
standardized.
for rental. You also, like, you have to prove that if you're moving a family member in there, you have to actually keep it for that amount of time. You have to prove, with like moving statements, et cetera. You also have to pay the tenant last month's rent.
Yeah. Oh.
So that rule, does that kind of, which also included the 15% tax for foreign investors. So that's
Right,
kind
that's
of what
right,
killed
yeah.
the market in like May of 2016, I think it was.
Yeah, well, I don't know if that killed the market, but it,
Certainly didn't help.
it didn't help. I think there were a number of factors that hurt the market, but listen, you know what? The market seems to be doing okay. Mortgage rates have been quite low. Well, listen, you're a real estate investor, you know, so, well, you've done some great things. I think maybe you'll present one of these days. You know, I'm sorry, you gotta remind.
Crystal.
So Crystal, if I can share just a little bit. So Crystal was telling me last week, she got a couple of properties, she's Airbnb, okay? And she knows like what season is the best Airbnb season, and then the summer it's this way, and she's moving around to really maximize. So I was very impressed, so kudos to you. And you know, it's exciting what you're doing. But back to Margaret. First of all, Margaret, it was a great presentation.
Oh, thank you.
So it was awesome. I want to maybe take a couple of minutes just to talk about financing, since that's I think an important part of it. And then what we'll do is we'll just go around the room quickly. Everyone take like 30 seconds. Let us know what you do. Do a little commercial for yourself, okay? And then afterwards, feel free to, you know, you want to put out some business cards, talk to people. Hang around. There's going to be some live music, network. We have some musicians in the audience. We're going to get Michael Tepper up here to sing when he's ready soon. Ray Gardner, good friend, brought his guitar over there. Jeff Hoffman here. I've been playing together with Jeff for a couple years now. He knows a lot of music, so if you want to sing a tune, go to Jeff. Also, Matt's unbelievable. He's not feeling too great tonight, but he did come out. So he's probably outside smoking a couple of cigs and who knows what. it's not that kind of party. Okay, so there's the sign-in sheet. If you haven't signed in, we'll pass it. Please sign in. So, okay, and you can pass it around, Ida, thank you. There's some snacks and stuff. Remember, Save Me Dog Rescue, okay? They do great work, please. There is hot coffee, but I kind of screwed up. Didn't bring enough cups, but above the sink, in the kitchen, there are clean mugs. So help yourself to a clean mug, and it would be even better if later you washed it. Otherwise, I'm going to be here till midnight and making Jeff clean up all the dishes, right?
He's taking money out now.
Okay, so financing, right? Because financing is important.
Let me just say something. So we are
Yeah,
the
go ahead,
points-
go ahead. I don't know.
Is it done, your presentation?
There was one more slide, but
One
let me
more
just say,
slide. Go ahead.
last something.
Yeah.
So we are at the point now, so pretty much as of next Friday, we're gonna have a dozen rental properties. So we are at the point where we wanna grow and get bigger, and we're looking for investors and people to partner with us to make something great out of this. So that's the point where we are. And yeah, if you guys are interested, or you know anybody else that's interested in investing, deal with people who have gotten their feet wet, been on the market, they've been doing this for at least 5.5 years, yeah.
So Margaret, are you open to working with partners? If somebody says, Margaret, I like your story, I want to be a partner in your next house. Are you open to that?
JD.
Okay, there you go.
Perfect.
So talk to Margaret, and we'll even help you if you need help to structure it, however we can assist you and assist Margaret. Jerry was here last week, Jerry Hogenhout. So Jerry is my partner in the clinic, okay? And he's a CPA, and he's quite smart. I don't want to use the word sophisticated. He is sophisticated, but he also drives a Mercedes. So I just want to, you know.
So you are sophisticated.
Right?
That's what they call me. I don't know if I'm sophisticated.
He's an unusual accountant because he besides the motorcycle and besides the fact he's an entrepreneurial accountant, right? Which most accountants are, Joe, no offense. None taken. So, you know, most of them, they're kind of like by the book sort of people, right? So Jerry is a pretty outside the box thinker, but not so far that, like, you know, you're just waiting for CRA to call and then I have no idea what's going on, right? Because he had many years at Deloitte Touche, so he, you know, he can play inside the lines and sometimes color outside the lines in different shades. So,
Great.
so yeah.
As long as there's like a tie to get back in,
Has to be a,
you can
right
rationalize
on.
it.
Yeah, there has to be a path back in for sure. So yeah, so I'll just give you a couple of pointers on financing, and then we'll do a quick around the room. Give yourself a commercial and a pat on the back for coming, and hang out and have some fun. Okay, so financing, first property, 5% down is the minimum down payment. It's got to be owner occupied. If you have less than 20% down, it's insured by either CMHC or Genworth, and you pay on top of your down payment. You have to pay some insurance premiums. Well, the premiums themselves are actually capitalized or added to the mortgage, so you got to pay it eventually. But so that's on your first home. You can buy actually a second home and have it insured with 5% as well. Okay. So now, if you buy a second home and then later you decide that you want to rent it out, you know, CMHC is not going to say you gotta give us more money. I mean, at that point, people do change their mind after the fact. But you also can't use rental income to help you qualify for the mortgage. So you have to be earning enough money to be able to qualify for that mortgage and the mortgage on the second property. Okay, and then obviously any other debts that you have, right? So don't go buy. I took Margaret's earlier point. You know, you don't want to be buying, financing $600 a month BMWs because it's going to impact your, or probably 900 is probably closer to the mark. And and because it impacts your ability to qualify for financing. And keep your credit card balances low, and you'll have a good credit score, and you can buy 1, 2, or maybe more properties depending on how much you're making. Problem self-employed people often have is that they might be have a lot of expenses in order to minimize their income, which is something you're allowed to do. You're allowed to do tax minimization is legitimate. So you have guys out there that are making, you know, $300,000 a year in commissions, and they're reporting $65,000 net income, like a real estate agent who has like $20,000 a year in expenses, but he's recording like 140 in expenses, right? So I'm not Revenue Canada. My lenders are not Revenue Canada. They don't challenge and turn him upside down to see if he's supportive of CRA. That was a great picture. Great visual. They basically just look for bank statements or commission statements. They're starting with the top line revenue, and then they say, okay, you're making $300,000 a year as a real estate agent. What do you have? $20,000, $30,000 a year in expenses? So we just kind of assume something reasonable, and now we can qualify you for a mortgage based on $270,000 in income, which is going to go a lot further than somebody who's making $65,000, right?
Did you have to use the notice of assessment?
No, so with my lenders, we don't generally ask for notice of assessments or tax returns. Sometimes they will, just to make sure there's no outstanding taxes, but quite often they will ask you on a stated income declaration form, just check this box to confirm you don't owe anything to CRA. It's quite amazing because I don't know, some of my private lenders are more nervous about tax arrears or having no tax arrears because everyone's afraid that CRA has been getting more aggressive, and they can do what's called these super liens and actually jump in front of a mortgage. So the fact that an institution can be that lax on that whole thing is amazing. But generally it's a good idea. We would recommend to keep your taxes up to date because otherwise it can be unpleasant with CRA. But again, I don't care what you report, okay? I don't care what you report. Just looking at the top line. Okay, so moving on, you know, whatever it is you need, you want to buy multiple properties, we can help you if you want to do construction financing, or somebody has a credit issue, or seniors, we have solutions for. So please keep us in mind for that. So far it's been a lot of fun. This is our second week. The place is growing. I know the topic was definitely a draw, Margaret, but we're going to try to have you know, good speakers. I know we will. We're attracting some really good speakers. It's going to be a lot of fun. Oh, here comes Matt. There, he's still good. Hey, Matt. Okay, so let's take this opportunity. We're going to start with Jeff. We'll go around quickly. I'm going to take 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Okay, so I am a musician. I work with David, but when I'm not doing that, I work for Imperial Coffee, the company that's sponsoring. My office is across the street, and if any of you work in an office of 15 or more people and they want to try out my coffee, you got everything to gain, you got nothing to lose, let me know.
I drink 15 people's worth of coffee a day.
That's even better.
One cup.
Okay, awesome. And Jeff's got cards. Everyone feel welcome. I said share your cards.
Hi, my name is Linda Bougie. I have some investment properties. Actually, I started this about the same time as Margaret, I think 2008-9, around there. A couple of properties in Kitchener and Barrie. And I went through some problems just like you at the beginning. Now my tenants pay even before the first of the month. One of the tenants, I'm trying to get him out. Even though he's paying, but he's very dirty and he doesn't have insurance. He refused to have insurance. And that's scary, and he's very dirty. So I'm scared that he's gonna start a fire or something. And my policy will not cover that fire. because if he started, that's the thing. But anyway, he doesn't want to leave, and they all pay on time. I learned a lot about tenants since then, and I know how to screen and how to keep them happy. So I'm quite happy with that. But this is kind of a part-time. I'm not really doing a lot of it. I started this, and then I had problems with tenants, and I figured I don't want to continue that thing. I'm looking at other type of investments, you know, rather than real estate. It's a long-term thing for real estate, and I incorporated, by the way, from day one. Yeah, I even for tax, for you know, for income and stuff. Like you have to, if you declare all your income personally, you're gonna be definitely paying more than a corporation, because corporation will pay less than individual.
Okay, listen, you can talk more after, but if everyone takes that much time, we're never gonna.
Right,
It's
that's
interesting,
all.
it's interesting, and we want to know more. We wanna know more.
Yeah.
Shiva.
Okay.
Guys, my name is Shiva. I'm a mortgage agent with David's team, and that's about it.
Nice.
Thanks, Shiva. Randy.
All right.
So I'm Randy McDonald, and my company is Realty Connect. So we're focused on marketing for real estate developers, specifically email marketing. So our two areas are project fundraising and marketing and develop properties to end users, whether they be investors or home buyers and sellers.
Okay, very good, thanks, Randy, sir.
My name is George. I'm just looking to buy a property, so I'm what it is.
Okay.
Start.
Came to the right place.
Yeah.
My name,
Joel.
my name is Joel Schuster. As David said, I'm a retired accountant and board game inventor. So if anybody wants to try to play a brand new board game that you've never seen before, I'm very happy for the feedback. We hope to be on Kickstarter, and I'm not sure when, but the next 60 or 90 days.
Yeah, well, we're gonna,
Darwin.
yeah, we're still gonna do a games and guitars night, right? That's
Oh,
still in the works.
Okay. Well,
We have to get the board of directors for a follow-up meeting. Michael, tell us.
My name is Margaret Parker. I'm a registered broker. I do also that is for a mortgage, as a mortgage broker, but I'm more focused on the real estate side of the business. I do supporting management for investors. All of them are from overseas. All the stories that I have about tenants, I know all of them. From tenant from here to tenant from heaven.
That sounds like a movie. Okay, Margaret, we know, sorry,
Yeah, my name is Shane. I'm a registered nurse. I know nothing about investments or properties. I'm a friend of Margaret's, but she's taught me a lot, which is great. It's a very interesting business, and you know, seems like a great side hustle that wouldn't send my mom to her early grave or anything. But she is an underwriter, so yeah.
okay, well, we'd like to hear more about that, and welcome, thanks for coming. Darren, good friend, very supportive guy. Darren refers a lot of business to us, which we appreciate. Tell us about yourself, Darren.
Right now, I'm looking to buy land, as you are. I actually have brought a piece of property to talk to Linda, and builders and stuff like that. So I'm looking at buying land, servicing it, increases the value, and then building eco-village with tiny homes and stuff like that, and Airbnb and, you know, prefab homes and stuff like that. So that's my goal, is to, like all these investors, have a little bit of properties that'll help with long-term return. As your assets increase and your rent increases, you always have an income going on.
Right, so is there eventually going to be an opportunity if people want to either invest in that or have a tinier home in your eco-village and be part of that revenue generating tool? Is there going to be opportunities eventually for?
Yeah, I'm going to be the guinea pig.
Yeah.
I'm not going to anybody else guinea pig, but I have friends that are builders who are a lot smarter than me. So I know to have a mastermind team. So once I'm going to buy 100% of the home, stick it on, and Airbnb it out.
Yeah.
And once it's there, once I know what the cap rates are, these prefab homes, anybody wants it, sure, go ahead and off the rates as we go.
Well, the other thing that people are doing now is, like, especially Toronto, you have the laneway housing and that kind of thing. So people are putting up like these tiny homes in their backyards or like over a garage in the lane. So we've had people in before, and I found a new guy. He's an architect and a real estate investor, and he's going to come in soon to talk to us about laneway housing.
Is his name Paul?
No.
I invited one of my friends, Paul. He knows all of them. Lane Whitehead,
Yeah.
she's builder.
Right, sounds good. So, okay, good, Darren, that sounds great. Ray Gertner, tell us a bit about yourself, good friend.
Hi, I'm Ray. I own a software development company. We develop websites and mobile applications. I've been interested in investing in real estate for quite a while now, and I'm always on the line between enthusiastic and nervous. And my mother owns a lot of property.